Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. Today's video is going to be another one in the series that I've been doing where I take a year from a comic book's history and I show books from it and I end up doing things. I only have, I promise, I've only got a couple of books to show today for this particular year. This year, in this year, I had some fun as a kid. I kissed a girl for the first time, and among other things. But more importantly, this was probably one of the biggest comic years that I collected when I was younger. The year is 1984. 1984. 1984. Which, just literally happened to be random because I went, picked the box and pulled out, and that was the year that came up. What I'm trying to do with this series is I've done the 1970s, I've done the 1960s one. I'm here doing a 1980s, so I'm going to make sure that those three are not covered in the next video, and we'll see what comes up next because I want to spread around the different decades and eras, and we'll see what we come up with. 1984 was a great year. In movies, you had Supergirl came out in November of '84. You had The Natural come out, the one starring, Robert Redford. I thought that was a great one. Temple of Doom came out in '84. Hot Dog the movie. That one was watched quite a bit by this guy and his friends. You had Footloose come out in 1984. 16 Candles and The Karate Kid, all big movies that people remember. On television at the time, you got to watch shows like Cheers, Night Court, Who's the Boss, Murder, She Wrote, Fantasy Island, which was in its last season, V, Hunter, Charles in Charge. Oprah made her debut in 1984, and Happy Days finished in 1984. Oprah, of course, was introduced to the world by Phil Donahue. And Oprah in the beginning was Jerry Springer-like. She was not the lifestyle coach that she is today, that the brand that she built. Music that was popular at the time. You had bands like Culture Club, The Eurythmics, Duran Duran, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, Madonna, Wham, Cyndi Lauper, and 1984 in December, November, December, was the year of Band-Aid, as in Feed the World, where that started all the stuff that came along in 1985. But you're not here to talk about movies and TV and such. No, like me, you're probably saying, but what happened in comics, Matt, in 1984? Well, let me tell you, as I was talking to my friend Ryan at Nefarious Comics, who's also a sponsor, check out his stuff in the description of the video below. There were lots of things that went on in comics in general in 1984. For one thing, there were a whole bunch of new companies. Antarctic Press, Continuity Comics, run by Neil Adams, Deluxe Comics, Matrix Graphics Series, Renegade Press, and the publisher Americomics changes its name to AC Comics. Unfortunately, with a whole bunch of new companies, a whole bunch of older companies didn't make it through 1984, including a big one. Gold Key Whitman shuts down its comics publishing in 1984, thus canceling every single Gold Key Whitman title that existed at the time. Capital Comics goes. Pacific Comics and the Spectrum Comics, they all cease to exist. Epic Comics was created as a brand for Marvel, and it was working. Star Comics was introduced later in 1984, and the Cartoon Art Museum opens in San Francisco. Now, let's talk about some more specific things that happen in comics. In January, Alan Moore takes over writing Swamp Thing with issue 20. February 84, World's Finest 300 is published, and Archie changes the Red Circle Comics names to Archie Adventure Comics. March sees Scream 1 published by IPC Magazines. And in April, New Teen Titans is renamed to Tales of the Teen Titans with issue 41, thus setting the scene for the new Baxter series, which came out a little later in 1984, the New Teen Titans Volume 2. The same thing happens with Legion of Superheroes when they changed their name after issue 313. It was starting with 314, and they became Tales of the Legion of Superheroes, leading to the Baxter series later in 1984. She-Hulk in April joins the FF with the Secret Wars crossover issue of Fantastic Four 265. And in May, Marvel's Secret Wars comes out, which is the first major crossover in comic books. After the Contest of Champions being one of the first ones, that was outside, of course, of superhero groups. Marvel Secret Wars was big. Jim Shooter did amazing with that. And of course, in May also, with Amazing Spider-Man 252, Spider-Man gets a new costume, the black one. In June of 84, First Comics picks up The Badger, Nexus, and Whisper as Capital Comics closes its doors. Firestorm 20, The Fury of Firestorm 24 becomes the first appearance of the Blue Devil. And in July, Steel Sterling is canceled by Archie Comics, leading to the beginning of the cancellation of the latest attempt of the Archie superheroes to be brought back into continuity, which started with Red Circle. And as I said, in August, the Legion becomes Tales of the Legion, and Power Pack 1 debuts for Marvel Comics. And in September of 84, you see the debut of Jem, Son of Saturn, and Haunted Tales is canceled by Charlton. In October, you see the publication of Superman 400. And Incredible Hulk 300 is also published this month. Ghostly Tales and Scary Tales canceled by Charlton. Not a good sign. In November, in Topolino Comics over in Italy, Scrooge McDuck was supposed to get married, but he ends up leaving his future bride, at the altar, thus not actually going through with it. This, of course, was a big deal because Scrooge McDuck famously stayed a bachelor for his entire 100 years of living. And for those that don't know, the official birth and death dates of Scrooge McDuck, according to Don Rosa, are 1867 to 1967. He lived to be 100 years old. So think of it another way, all the stories take place in that century. In November of 84, A Contract with God is republished in the Yiddish language for the first time. And then you've got a major storyline in Judge Dredd's called The City of the Damned beginning in that month, as well as the debut of the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine and Muppets Take Manhattan miniseries over at Marvel. In December, Blue Ribbon Comics is canceled by Archie Comics, which thus ending pretty much with that, ending the superhero attempt for good. Every other horror title at Charlton that's left gets canceled as well, thus shutting down the last of the Bronze Age books, as DC and Marvel had both shut their horror down by this time. Captain America 300, where he fights the Red Skull, comes out in December of 84. And Peanuts becomes the most published comic book or strip ever, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, with the number of strips and comic books and everything combined that were considered unique as of December 1984. There were a few major deaths in comics this year. Ray Moore on the 13th of January, who was a co-creator with Will Eisner of The Phantom. He was either 78 or 79 years old. They weren't sure. Carl Burgess goes on March 1st from the Human Torch in at the age of 67. Bob Clampett, extremely popular and well-known animator, psychologist, and cartoonist, passes away on the 2nd of May at the age of 70. Long-time contributor to Looney Tunes. Clampett was co-creator of Daffy Duck, and probably they think he was a co-creator of Bugs Bunny. Most places say yes, some places say no. It's so I'm going to say probably, but we'll go from there. Then on May 21st, Ruben Moreira, who was a famous Puerto Rican artist for Tarzan, passes away at 61. Al Hubbard on May 30th. Al Hubbard was known for being a big contributor to Tom and Jerry. He was either 70 or 71. But one of the biggest ones was Saul Brodsky, who was known as Stan Lee's right-hand man at Marvel Comics as the production manager at the age of 61. Then Pete Costanza on 28th of June. He did a Captain Marvel comics. He was did a lot of work with Classics Illustrated. He passed away at the age of 71. Bruno Premani, Bruno Premani on August 17th, who was known for his work on the Doom Patrol and Tomahawk, passes away at 77. Phil Soiling on August 21st. He was a convention organizer and considered to be the father of the direct market at the young age of 50. In November, with a question mark because no one was sure what date it happened, Ben Oda, longtime letterer for EC Comics and DC Comics, passes away at the age of 69. And Al Arson on 30th December, known for doing The Wizard and Captain America, passes away at the age of 64. Books that made its releases this year: Blue Devil, Infinity Inc., Volume 3 of the Legion of Superheroes, Volume 2 of the New Teen Titans and Star Trek over at DC, while at Marvel, you got Secret Wars, Alien Legion, Amazing, High Adventure, Power Pack, and the Transformers make their debut over at Marvel Comics. In independent comics, the biggest ones would have to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Mirage. That is probably the most popularly sought-after book from this year, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. Dragon Ball was brought out by AKNC. The original Shield came out again at Archie. This was the last chance for this attempt at Comic Heroes. And Wally Wood's Thunder Agents came out from Deluxe Comics in 1984. Books that were canceled this year: Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, Supergirl, Volume 2, New Gods, Volume 2, all Charlton horror books, every Whitman and Gold Key book, you name it, it was gone. And the Micronauts over at Marvel. Marvel also, January 1984 was also Assistant Editors Month over at Marvel. So any of these, now obviously the work was done in 1983, but if you have any of those assistant editor, oh, beware, it's Assistant Editors Month, and I've got one here, you'll know that it was 1984. And actually, we're going to start with that one with the books I'm going to show. This is Conan 154 from January. And it says right in here, warning, surgeons have generally determined that Assistant Editors Month is dangerous to your health. Followed by Conan 160 in July. As usual, I use cover dates and not actual publication dates. Simplicity, and it gives things. We've got August 161 for Conan. And September 162. Next up, I've got a few of the new Defenders that I pulled out. Just in as 1983 was ending, the title changed its name from the Defenders to the New Defenders with issue 125. That was dated November 1983. So this year it begins with the New Avengers. Here is February's 128. I like this cover. Great close-ups of some of the members. Here we have June's 132. Followed by August's 134. Next up is one of the books that I was talking about with regards to change in title. This is Legion of Superheroes 311 from May 84. Brainiac blows up the world. Followed by Legion of Superheroes 312. Science Police member is there arresting somebody with Sun Boy and Element Lad. And then 313, which is the last issue of Legion of Superheroes. This, is, of course, is July, because here in August is the first issue, Tales of the Legion of Superheroes 314. And it's the same with the new Teen Titans. You've got January 84's 38, which is the new Teen Titans. And then the first book of number 41, Tales of the Teen Titans here. He's no longer Robin. He's being told that he's Dick Grayson. He doesn't become Nightwing for 2 more issues. Because that whole Judas contract happens now, and I don't have any of the floppies from that. But here is Tales of the Teen Titans 46 from September of 84. When all is said is done. Next up, a couple of books from The New Adventures of Superboy. This one, of course, started in 1980 when Superboy was renamed Legion of Superheroes. And this one continues this year. It does get canceled later in this year. I didn't mention that, but these are some of the last books in the series. This is number 49 of January 1984. Gil Kane cover. Anniversary starring the Legion, number 50, February 84. I loved back in 1982 to 1985 or so, they were putting this anniversary thing across the top when books made it, and I thought that was really cool. Followed by March 51. March is not issue 51. And issue 52 from April of 1984. Moving back to Marvel, I've pulled out some Fantastic Four books, including the previously mentioned 265 from April of 1984, where She-Hulk joins the Fantastic Four to replace the Thing, who stays on the planet where the Secret Wars happens. Followed by May's 266, which is an older story in continuity because, of course, the Thing is here. And 267, which is June. And July's 268, which is a cool semi-painted, I believe it's painted, Doctor Doom mask cover, which is why I picked this. The Star Wars title carries on till 1985 because this is December 1984's Star Wars 90. Really cool silhouette of Darth Vader in the back. And over at DC, Star Trek began. Here is issue, and this is the original series, because in 1984, there hasn't been a Next Generation yet. So this is issue 3 from April. I have here the last 3 issues of Supergirl. This is from July 84. I think this is a cool one to show because it shows the aerobics outfit. It's a costume she wears really well. And of course, in 1984, aerobics were all the rage thanks to Jane Fonda and leg warmers and all that other stuff. Headbands were cool. But they didn't last much longer past 1984. Headbands were pretty much out by 86, maybe even 85. This is Supergirl 22 from August. And the final issue of Supergirl, number 23, unfortunately left us with a cliffhanger which never got resolved because they canceled this title really stupidly, I thought, because in November the movie came out. But they were getting ready for Crisis. They just made the decision to do Crisis on Infinite Earths and unfortunately have her be killed off. And so because of that, they canceled the book. Also a good reason why they didn't promote Supergirl the movie as much as it should have been. The fact that Christopher Reeve wasn't in the movie made a big difference, I think. Especially since Superman 3 the year before didn't do as well as it could have at the box office. We've got January 1984's World's Finest Comics 299. Followed by the amazing anniversary issue of 300, which I mentioned in my other parts. Really cool. You've got the Justice League and the Outsiders and the Teen Titans all coming to hang out. At this point, Batman is still not a member of the Justice League anymore. We're going why the 3 teams get together. Pretty good story if you want something fun to read. 301 from March. And 302 from April. And this is a great Hannigan Jansen cover. I've always liked this one. I remember rushing to buy this book because I saw this cover and thinking, ooh, I got to go get my money and come right back and buy it, which I did. Next up, I've got, and the last books I'm going to show from 1984 are some books from Action Comics. There's some of my personal favorites. I've done videos on these books before, which is why I wanted to include them. This is Action 552, February 84. The Forgotten Heroes. It's Gil Kane cover. And of course, the follow-up. And I want to point out that that's Dolphin's only her 3rd appearance ever in continuity. And follow up with March's 553. Then I pulled out a couple of covers later in the year because I liked them. This one is August 558, where Superman's heat vision is out of control. I guess he needs Scott Summers glasses to borrow for a little while. And the last book I'm going to show is Action Comics 559 from September. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe below. It went a little longer than expected, but 1984 for me, because of the age, I was 13. I was like very aware of the world at this point, and probably the year I bought the most comic books from until 1987, 88, post-crisis. That because of that, I was a little miffed at Crisis, so I stopped buying for a couple of months. Not completely, but you get my point. In 85 and 86, after Crisis was done, I was a little miffed. But I digress. Anyway, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. I know I said that before, but I'm 54 and I forget things. I particularly would like to know what books from 1984 you liked, you got, and or are still seeking, because I know a lot of people still want to get their hands on Secret Wars, especially Secret Wars 8. Secret Wars 8, I believe, is the last one from 1984. But I don't want to say that for 100% sure. I'm not sure what the cover date is. I probably should have looked it up. But considering that it came out in May, it probably was in November, December. Got May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And that would be, so it was probably dated December 84. But if I'm wrong, let me know, of course. I'd love to know. I never want to put wrong information out there. Thank you very much for joining me today. I also would like to know if you're enjoying these little year videos. This is my third one, and I'd like to know that everybody out there thinks they're cool. If I want to keep going, they do take a little bit of work. Not that I don't like the work. I love doing these because I like the retrospects. Makes me think, oh, this is cool. Thank you very much for joining me today. My name's Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Bye, everybody.